start alongside him. Rafa Blanco will be next ahead of the two inner iRacing team drivers of Denis Kyriakopoulos and George Gonzaga. Jack Dunkovic alongside him. Oscar Pesavento and Robert Woodward will share row 9, with Woodward the first driver over a second off of pole. John Pethick is the final driver to set a time in 19th. There may be more below that even in this session as they grid up. We will wait and see. There they are though, on the grid, ready for that run down towards turn 1, which is not the biggest feature of this circuit, unlike what it will be for some of the other tracks later on this season, as we kick this season off with a bang.
Yeah, and hoping that's not a literal bang, although this is going to be a very challenging racetrack. We got to keep an eye on all of these racers. How they tackle the first lap. This is an unforgiving circuit, not a whole lot of runoff, and you can see those tire barriers. Even on newer scans, the tires are made out of the matter of white dwarf stars, but even so, on this old version of the racetrack, that is going to be super unforgiving. If you go off the track here, you're going to be in for a world of hurt. So these racers need to keep it nice and tidy between the white lines, but they also want to try and start off the season on the best note possible. Nothing sounds nearly as sweet as tasting that champagne in the first round of one of these championships. So as we get into season 4, you got many a racer looking to try and impress themselves. Two racers up at the front with very different seasons in the past. You got Heinz Braun looking to try and impress even more, and Andre Castro looking to defend his crown. Let's see what season 4 has to bring.
Absolutely. As the lights come on for the first time here this season, it is Motorsport for round number 1 of the Radical Esports Cup in season 4 of 2025. And here we go in towards turn number 1 for Andre Castro. He's going to continue to lead. And again, what a great start to his season he's had already. As they come down the hill, it's going to be he who leads. Single file actually for the top 4 here as they filter themselves through. Grass on the exit of this corner, don't forget, unlike what we see in real life these days, but not necessary for any of these guys. It's Castro who leads, and a clean start from those behind as well.
As you see these racers still negotiating the opening series of corners around this track, downhill all through the turn, you can see heading off into one of the heaviest braking zones around this lap, and one of the more important turns around this racetrack too. That tight double right-hander section basically feels like a hairpin, but it is still a good spot. And if you got a good run out of there, heading onto this Mario Andretti straightaway, you are going to be smelling like a bed of roses. I mentioned this right before we started up the show. Huge slipstream opportunity. As look at Heinz Braun.
Here we go, up into the end of the lap. That's exactly where we're expecting to see the moves here today, at the end of that long straight. Heinz Braun pretty close at the end of the Mario Andretti straight, but not close enough on Andre Castro. Was that a choice, or was that a case of he couldn't get past there as they end the first lap? Castro, Braun, Gullickson, Friedrich, the top 4. Seems that the front 4 are those who have managed to get a bit of a breakaway over the rest of the field.
And already some gaps beginning to form around this field. This racetrack is one of those where it lends itself to having these small little packs break out. You've got some racers able to keep toes with each other, others just in that terrible window of not able to get a lot of slipstream help heading down that back straightaway, but also getting a lot of dirty air off through the turns. These SR10s, probably the most draft-heavy race cars on the entirety of the iRacing platform. I would probably say it's high up in the top 3 with the likes of the Spec Racer Ford and the Formula V, as that's going off the track big time for Kike Ming and the number 8 machine. Tough stuff for him.
Yeah, that's Moss Corner, and there's such danger at Moss Corner there. If you just end up in the grass on the outside or anything, you can be in real trouble. Yanakis is in pretty big trouble as well further back, as it's side by side, nearly 3 wide. Franco Sanchez-Buckley trying to come through. Peter Evany as well, the 7th place, with Rafa Blanco there as well. So it's all very close there, but let's see what happened to Kike Ming. Sorry for getting that wrong earlier. Inside line for the car behind, but maybe put off slightly, just catches the grass slightly and goes deep into Moss Corner.
Yeah, a very psychedelic looking paint scheme on that car. He tripped up, heading his way off through another very challenging section of this racetrack, Moss Corner, turn number 5. You gotta think of every single thing that an SR10 doesn't want to do is what you've got to do heading off to that section. Extremely bumpy, not a lot of runoff area, and the elevation change really messing with the weight transfer in these SR10s. That's another thing to raise about this track, the weight transfer, always keeping these drivers on their toes. These cars don't really like hitting big bumps, hitting big curves, and that's a big curb whack for Heinz Braun. He's got to drop down out of the podium spots into 4th.
Dear oh dear, that is bad news for him as far as trying to win this race goes. Castro will have the chance to run away from the rest of the field now, as Sully Rattanen gets in close with Braun, and here comes Friedrich as well, holding his place, or trying to, on the outside line, and he's not going to. Heinz Braun's going to go through into third position ahead of Friedrich, back into third, I should say, with Friedrich fourth, then Sully Rattanen, who's next in line. But this is only allowing the opportunity anyway for Castro to get away.
Yeah, we're entering that stage of the race where all of these racers looking to settle into some sort of groove. You know, in the early drama and the chaos, these racers having to scramble around the track. That's when those mistakes begin to pile up, as that's Christopher Yanakis getting bumped, heading off through the second to last turn into turn 10, the final curve around this racetrack. A small little tap in that medium speed section, the small little blip of the gas that you have to give between there. It really shows off the bravery and the confidence that these racers have in their cars. That's another thing to raise about these SR10s. We talk about a lot throughout these broadcasts, and we'll mention it a lot, certainly because of the very technical nature of the racetracks that we're visiting all season long here. These cars, they take a while to really get into the swing of things. You have to wait for a bit for the tires to get up to temp, for the brakes to get up to temp. I've driven these cars enough to know that on cold tires, they are a very tough ride, but once you get into that groove, you're gonna feel comfortable, and certainly Andreas Friedrich feeling comfortable enough to try and get a move done on his fellow German with a huge sideways snap through 9.
Very big sideways snap, and that's only going to invite Raitanen here. Another one at the final turn. Goodness me. Raitanen not close enough to get involved over the start-finish line on that occasion. Somebody asking in Twitch chat, by the way, good evening to everybody watching along, that asking how that they can join this series. Well, this is the official series. This is the official iRacing Radical Esports Cup. So you can find this on iRacing if you purchase the Radical SR10. Next week we'll be back same time, same place from the Nürburgring Nordschleife, just the Nordschleife itself, with no Grand Prix circuit attached. So if you have that track, if you have that version, and you buy the Radical SR10 as well, then you've got a chance of being in top split, which is what we cover here on 2100 GMT. We have done all throughout 2025, so you very much can join in. This is Caio Moraes going off the road, not without a little bit of assistance coming through the right-hander at turn 3.
And turn 3, another tough turn around this track. I feel like I say that every single turn is tough around here, but it kind of is. This is a very challenging and old school racetrack. CTMP, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Mosport, whatever you want to call it. It is a track that has pretty much remained exactly the same ever since it opened many, many moons ago. It hosted Formula 1 way back in the 60s. I believe it was the first ever track up in Canada to host a Formula 1 Grand Prix, at least a championship race for Formula 1. There may have been a non-championship round beforehand, but F1 used to race here. It's a track that NASCAR used to run with the NASCAR Truck Series. IMSA still runs here every single year. It's got a lot of alterations to make the track safer, but in this older scan with the asphalt about as patchy as my face when I was 14, it really exemplifies the challenge of an old school but still very fast racetrack.
Wide, Brown. Wide for Heinz Braun, and so Andreas Friedrich goes through into third position, and Sully Rattanen's going to have a good chance of coming through here as well on the way towards the fast right-hander. He's going to get boxed in if he's not careful, Braun, and so he's just going to have to push Friedrich on the way towards the right-hander. Now, is he going to try and regain the place, or is he just going to accept not losing 2 places? And indeed, it is the latter. So Braun loses a position, but he is not enjoying Moss Corner. That's at least the second time we've seen him have trouble through there in just 6 laps now.
As we see that moment from Heinz Braun, that's another thing to raise. The mistakes can pile up on you rather quickly in these races. You know, 20 laps, it may seem like a decent amount, but again, this is a small track, this with short lap times. If you have one mistake off into turn number 5, especially in a car like the SR10 that really rewards confidence, if you're not feeling confident, you're not going to be quick. I can speak that as somebody who's now been able to commentate this series for coming up to 3 years now. Holy cow, time flies when you're having fun. And someone who's gotten to drive this car extensively on the iRacing platform as well. Everybody will tell you that if you're confident, you're going to be quick. If you have a little bit of unease, whether it be, okay, I don't really want to hit this curb too much, I don't want to go through this turn flat out, those mistakes can begin to pile up. This is a car where the mental side of things is probably the most important thing. There's a lot of mental blocks that you have to go past, and if you can get through them, if you can negotiate those mental blocks and kind of put them in the back of your head, you'll be good. If you can't really compartmentalize that and say, okay, I may feel a little bit uneasy about this, but I need to do it in order to go fast, that's when those mistakes can pile up, as we see a moment from Samir Kadora and contact being made. Big touch coming out of the turn, and that's himself and Oscar Pesavento who had that contact coming out of turn number 5. I will say Kadora had a similar moment like that a few laps beforehand, and the only reason I know that is because I saw it on my own iRacing feed. Yet again, turn 5 proving to be a trouble spot.
Yeah, Pesavento's car especially, that looks absolutely wrecked. Peter Evany and Kadora's out the race officially. Evany is into the pit lane as well at the moment, by the way, after having trouble. He was running inside the top 10 at the time. So I wonder whether that was involved in the group that's now headed by Michele Bonalumi, 7 seconds off the lead in 7th place. I think that might be where that took place, but either way, Caruso unfortunately, Peter Evany is a long way out. This is what happened to Pesavento. I mean, we saw it there in that normal time replay. He just didn't have any time to react, unfortunately. Kadura hadn't stopped spinning by the time that there was contact made, so just didn't have time to react, as the battle for third stays the same this time round at the end of lap 8.
As we get closer and closer to the halfway mark of this race, I think we're starting to see some comers and goers. We're starting to see the pace evolve for many a racer up and down this field. Some cars coming into their own, others maybe starting to drop back a teeny tiny bit. We'll say the gap has grown between Andre Castro and Havard Gullikson up at the front of the field, 2 past champions in the SR10s. Gullikson got the job done in season number 1 of 2025. Castro entering this season 4 as your reigning champion here on the Radical Esports Cup. The gap now growing to about 1.7 seconds between those racers. And Andreas Friedrich, a venerated racer in these SR10s for that inert team. He is a top running competitor in these cars. I think if he can just make a small little push to catch up a teeny tiny bit to Havard Gullikson, we could see him once he breaks through and catches up that draft, which usually pick up about a second behind the car up in front. Once he breaks through that window, we could very well see this 4-car battle for third turn into a 5-car battle for second.
Around the outside for Broome. Can he do it round here? Spectacular place to try it. And he's got the inside for the penultimate turn, and he does go through. So Heinz Braun into 3rd place ahead of Andreas Friedrich. That was very nicely done indeed. Ahead of them, Sully Ratchanen, just behind them, Sully Ratchanen, and then Paki Caruso. Ratchanen has a look down the inside at turn 1, so Friedrich is going backwards here. He's got to stop that momentum, and he does by holding off Ratchanen into turn 1 and then again at turn 2 as well.
And the racing now getting more and more aggressive between these racers. Talking about Heinz Braun in that number 5 car, we talked about a lot throughout the last season and the season before that as well, Ewan, about the driver that Heinz Braun is. Very aggressive, very, very racy. He will be the first out of anybody to go for the move down the inside, risk it for the biscuit. He also put on some very brilliant defensive drives throughout last season as well. I remember the one in Interlagos where he was holding on to that race lead for dear life, and he was able to hold on to it for a decent period of time. After that, he kind of started to drop back. But Heinz Braun has proved himself to be a racer that still continues to evolve season after season. I will love to see what he can do as we get into season 4, as like Sally Reinen trying to show what he can do, sweeping around the outside of Friedrich off through 8, has the inside through 9, and he'll still be stuck on the outside through 10, but they touch.
Oh, they have, and Sully Ratchanen goes around. That is a big shame to see. Andres Friedrich and Sully Ratchanen make contact, especially because Ratchanen was in the ascendancy there. I actually think he was quicker than these guys in this group, but that's put an end to it now. He is going to have to regain those places, and there's going to be a lot of them as well. He drops all the way outside the top 16. He had to wait for the entire train to go past. It's quite an awkward place to end up, actually, on the outside there. And he could just never, ever rejoin before he was a long, long way down. Let's see how it properly happened here. Friedrich's on the inside for the final corner. That's what he's posing for anyway. And here he is. Does Ratchanen give him enough room, or does Friedrich come up into him? It's very hard to know.
Yeah, I think side-by-side racing heading off through the final turn here at CTMP, it is a tough ask. You can't really do that too smoothly. You can do it, but somebody's feelings are most certainly going to be hurt. And unfortunately there for Sally Ryden, looks like he was the one that got shown the door. He's now well farther back than where he was a matter of one lap ago. Tough stuff as they headed their way off through the final sector. As much as what leads into it is the best slipstreaming opportunity on the entirety of this racetrack. If you're side-by-side off through it, you better get that sorted before you come out of turn number 9. Otherwise, you're going to have something like that off into 10. That turn just not very conducive for side-by-side racing. It's tricky enough single file, let alone side-by-side.
Absolutely. As this battle continues without Raitanen. That's the third position between Brian Friedrich and Aki Caruso. Jack Dunkovic and Michele Bonalumi are in the next group further behind. There they are. Dunkovic recently up to 6th place, or has he been caught for 6th place? No, he's recently up to 6th place, sorry, ahead of Bonalumi, who's still 7th. Bonalumi was heading the group when they were all battling over 7th, but they've all made a place. He's taken one step back and then one step forward again, but he might have a good run out of Moss here to regain that all over again. And in fact, he has left the rest of the group behind, in fairness, but see if he can get that 6th place back again from Jarrett Dunkovic, just as Friedrich has done from Braun. Look at this, outside line for him. Oh, is it 3 wide maybe, through the middle? Goodness me, Aki Caruso tries to go through the middle, but that's not going to work. Braun goes through into 3rd, and Friedrich's going to be done around the outside, and here it is again. It's roles reversed. Friedrich on the outside this time, and he makes it work, but my goodness, that was close to a 3 wide moment. Aki Caruso looking punchy here on that 13.
And what happened to Andres Friedrich as Caruso got that move done? He was just crowded onto the inside line, had such a shallow approach all through the turn that he had to lift off big time. If he didn't do that, it probably would have been a case of deja vu just one corner earlier, and we probably would have seen either Aki Caruso or both Caruso and Friedrich spin off the track in dramatic fashion as they headed their way into the final turn. Instead, though, Friedrich, he knows better. He lifted out of it, saying, you know what, you gotta give and you gotta take. And in this case, he decides to give a little bit. He'll probably take in the not too far off future, as they may try and both take that spot from Heinz Braun as he had a bit of a trip up off through turn number 5. You can see a bit of a wiggle. He got loose on that outside curb. These SR10s do not respond well with big curb wax, doubly so on a curb, which is about as much of a sawtooth as you could possibly get. But utilizing that run is Aki Caruso. He's got to try and make it work. Meanwhile, all of these racers are converging on each other. We jump back to this replay to see the drama that happened last lap as they all remain the line of stern. Look at that Caruso. Ever the opportunity, trying to split the difference, go 3 wide with those racers down the backstretch into turn number 8 and 9. And there you can see, crowded down on that inside, there were 2 options for Andres Friedrich. He either had to hit that curb, which he probably would have augured straight into the side of the number 6 of Caruso, or he just decided to lift. I think that's the smart call from him. He's still in this race. The both of them are. They still have a pretty all right shot getting a podium at the end of the day. Yeah,
there's still a decent way to go in this race, don't forget. Still a third of it left, so got to be wary of that. Another question in, by the way, about what the fastest lap is tonight so far. It's a 1:12.067 from Andre Castro. You can compare notes at home, but very difficult to go faster than Andre Castro, that's for sure. He is a very quick driver indeed, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with once again this season. 2 big names who are missing, by the way, tonight, though, is Christoph Lipp and James Barry. So shame that we're not getting them in their first 2100 GMT broadcasted split race this season, but hopefully they appear for the remainder as Caruso again gets to the outside of Braun, but he's not close enough again. 2nd lap in a row, they're line astern through these final corners, and that will make Friedrich a little bit restless, I think, but he sat there in the 3rd position of these 3.
So Andres Friedrich may be going to be chomping at the bit to at least get a move done on Caruso to jump his way up into 4th, no longer be the rear gunner of that pack. But as we take a look at that action, still in that battle for 3rd on the top side of your screen, we look at the bottom and we follow this 2-car battle involving Jarrett Dunkovic, one of the top running racers in the AM category in the Radical Americas Championship, battling with the number 18 of Michele Bonalumi. Let's keep an eye on these two as they head their way off through the opening series of corners, starting off in the mid-sector right now as they head their way out of Quebec corner of turn number 3, down the hill, under the bridge into 4 and 5. This Moss corner has proved to be a trouble spot for many a racer up to this point, but they both keep it clean and smooth through there. The exit of Moss corner, probably one of the more important corners on the half of this season, shall we say, in the first half of this championship. I mean, you mentioned it right at the start of the show, Ewan, how this is probably one of the stronger draft races from the first half of this championship. And with that being said, the exit of 5, probably one of the more important corners from the first half of the season, maybe even the entirety of the championship for that matter.
Well, absolutely. We've got 11 rounds to go after this one, that's for sure. And it's going to be a lot of fun up until the start of December when we finish the season. Of course, you can join in any time. You don't have to just do the races at this time of the day. They're every 2 hours on the hour, this series. So there you go, 12 a day. Whatever 12 times 7 is, that's how many there is a week. and it's a great series to get involved in as well. But these guys have they've just spaced themselves out, haven't they, in these last few moments? And after a rip-roaring first 2/3 of this race, they've just calmed down. I was about to say, I wonder whether Braun has just figured this one out at the moment, but then he goes a little bit wide again at Moss, which he's been having trouble with, but he has still got enough distance, I think, to be okay down the back straight here.
So still looking all right for these racers. Heinz Braun, you know, we talked about the evolution of Braun. I want to see how his defensive driving style evolves throughout this season, because, again, he put on some brilliant defensive drives throughout Season 3 of 2025, and putting on another good one, but he's not having to throw blocks. He's just getting a good enough run out of that turn, building that cushion as he heads onto the back straightaway, whereby he doesn't really have to worry about it, even though Caruso and Andres Friedrich not exactly throwing haymakers at each other, just Braun able to position his car and pace himself well enough. You know, when it comes to these races, they're certainly on the shorter end, doubly so compared to the Radical Americas and European Championship races, which are an hour long. But it is still a bit of a marathon. These racers have to pace themselves well. This is sort of race car that allows for that to happen, as Packy Caruso having to lift out the throttle big time to avoid becoming a lawnmower out of 3.
I wonder whether Braun has been given the invitation now to just take third here, and Friedrich and Caruso are going to be left to fight for 4th and 5th between themselves, because that was just a little bit wide from Caruso. The gap has really ballooned, and you can see Braun seeing this as his moment. He's just weaving around just to break the slipstream a little bit and try and stay away from Friedrich and Caruso, and he's got a decent chance of doing that now. But Friedrich just hanging on to the coattails. Look at that, 7/10 of a second, and so Friedrich is still there. There's Dunkovic and Bonalumi still postponing their fight for a little bit later. There's only 3 to go when they get to the line here.
So getting to the end of this race, I'll tell you what, time flies when you're having fun. This has been a fun race up to this point. These racers have given us our fair share of action to talk about. We still stay focused on this battle between Jared Dunkovic and Michele Bellumi. I do want to touch on the other battle a little bit farther behind, right behind these racers, involving Franco Sanchez Buckley and Tim Bertie. I haven't touched on those two, but Sanchez, a past race winner in these SR10s, and a driver who was nearly involved in the championship battle last year in the Radical Americas Championship, running a pretty good performance right now. He's been able to pull that gap between himself and Tim Bertie. Perfect time for me to raise it. As soon as I'm like, yeah, there's a battle going on right there, then the gap begins to balloon out. But no, Franco Sanchez, nice to see him out here on the racetrack. Rafa Blanco as well, looking to try and dust himself off after what I could probably best describe is a very rough Season 3. He entered it as a reigning champion here in these Radical official broadcasted races, but in Season 3, man, he did not have called it the filled-in snake pit at the zoo. He really didn't have a pit to hiss in all season long. Had poor luck from the start of the season all the way through to the end. I think he's gotten himself a steel umbrella, though, trying to block himself from any sort of falling anvils that may come down on your P-Town runner. So let's keep an eye on Blanco to see if he can dust himself off after that disappointing run in Season 3.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be great to see him back up towards the front again in some of these races, and we'll be monitoring him closely along with everybody else. Franco Sanchez Buckley gets a bit closer to this group now, and this is maybe why Dunkovic and Bonalumi have spent most of this race, certainly the second half, working together here, because Franco Sanchez Buckley is closing in. I say quickly, but he is closing in to a degree into the Moss corner now. He will get the slipstream down the back straight. He's not going to be close enough though by the end of this lap, but he might be next lap, so that's what they've all got to be worried about. And Bonalumi is certainly close enough this time. I wonder whether he's actually going to go for a move here, and he's decided, well, we're not going to distance Buckley anyway. Let's battle this one out and make sure that I'm in front by the time he gets here. Outside line, and he might well just have achieved that here. Can he get right round the outside, maybe into the fast right-hander? No. Dunkovic has defended well there on the inside line, and is he going to keep the place? Well, it's not over. Just cuts the nose off Bonalumi, and Buckley's right there. He's not wasting a moment either. He looks down the inside, but he doesn't go for it, and the final lap waves. Dunkovic, Bonalumi, Buckley will sort this out between themselves for 6th position.
And as Andre Castro looks to try and start off this season the way he ended last, with a win in these 2100 GMT broadcasted races, the battling behind is still absolutely feverish. These racers throwing every single thing at one another, throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticks. This is a tough track to get some moves done at, but they can do it. These racers have been around the block before in these cars. They know how they work. They know how their competitors work as well. When you build up that familiarity, you can capitalize on the mistakes that Jared Dunkovic had a bit of a trip up off through Moss, and another one on corner exit.
Yeah, this is going to put him in big trouble now from Bonalumi, surely, as they come down the end of the straight here. There's going to be no arguments about the top 5 positions. They're all going to be set in stone at the end here from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. It's going to be Andre Castro who wins the first race of the season in the Radical Esports Cup. There he goes. He sees the checkered flag, and he wins here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in round 1 of 2025 Season 4. What about for 6th? It's Dunkovic who holds on. What a great bit of defending, especially in those last couple of laps ahead of Bonalumi and Buckley. Bonalumi flashes the lights, says well played, so does Buckley, and Dunkovic will be able to pat himself on the back there, because that was a good job of late defending. Side by side between Woodward and Marias as well to the line here, and a photo finish. Not quite our first of the season. It's only for 15th. Ko Marias just beats Robert Woodward to the line.
Yeah, I'm just going to say there's a total non-point, but I do want to raise this. Robert Woodward, in the entire time that I've been covering these Radical SR10s, which dates back to Season 1 of 2023, still running that same pink livery. Nice to see him back out there on the racetrack and involved in a very thrilling finish.
It's Andre Castro who wins, though, by 2.2 seconds. He starts off as he left off in the previous season, ahead of Gullickson and Braun, who join him on the podium. Friedrich just outclassed, unfortunately, towards the end there by those others around him, although he did see off Paki Caruso for 4th. Jared Dunkovic held on from Bonalumi and Buckley, as we saw, with Tim Bertie and Rafa Blanco finishing inside the top 10. 11th went to George Gonzaga, who had a quite a quiet race, actually. Kike Ming finishes 12th, despite that off-track moment early on. There's a lot of overtakes made actually there. Pethic, Kurakopoulos, Woodward and Marias very close together over the line. Only half a second separate them. Yanakis was a lap down. Sully Ratinen, Peter Ivany, Oscar Pesavento, and also Samir Kadura retired from that race early on, unfortunately for them. Let's have a chat to Andre Castro then, shall we? At the end of the opening round of the season, it's another victory. Andre, congratulations on your first victory of a new season in the broadcasted split races anyway, here on Racespot TV and the iRacing YouTube channel as well. How did you find Motorsport out there tonight? It looked like you found it very comfortable.
Yeah, thanks, Ewan. I think just a lot of laps a few years ago, back when the trucks used to come here, the NASCAR trucks, we used to race a lot with my friends and see fixed, and definitely know the track pretty well because of that. And yeah, it was a good race with Havard. Like we were just trading lap times. Once I got him out of my draft, I thought I might pull away, but he really made sure I had to stay focused and keep hitting my marks. And yeah, I could run around like 98% or so and still kind of keep the gap. Sometimes he would eat into it, and but I felt like it was more important to not make a mistake. So yeah, luckily I could just I wasn't cruising by any means, but I was driving at a level that I felt I could sustain, and it worked out.
You were very strong last season, and indeed challenged a little bit tonight, but kept it at arm's length throughout the race. Who do you think are going to be the challengers this season, and can you sort of repeat a similar season to what you were able to do in the broadcasted and non-broadcasted races last season?
Yeah, I mean, this was 5 in a row, I think, so definitely been a really good run. 3 in a row for BS Hybrid, and shout out to those guys I think we're watching. And I don't know, I think the same guys as usual, like the front runners, right? Like Havard and Christoph and James, and didn't see Christoph and James today, so we'll see if they come back. But hopefully, we got some other hopefully we have some other contenders come in and some guys with some success in some other series. Definitely love to see them join and fight with them. So hopefully we get some new guys as well. And besides that, hopefully it'll be just the same cast of characters, I think. But you never know. Everyone's always getting better, pushing the limits. So we'll see. We'll have to see next week.
We certainly will. But for now, Andre, congratulations on the win tonight, and thanks for chatting to us at the end of the race as well.
Thank you, Ewan and Rons. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Andre Castro, the winner tonight from Motorsport. Second place was Havard Gullikson, who can now join us as well. Havard, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congrats on second place in the opening round of the broadcasted races here this season. Do you feel there was anything else you could have done tonight to get maybe a little bit closer to race winner Andre Castro?
No, I don't think so. Maybe if I was a bit faster driver, I could beat him. But Castro is really quick. He won last season deservedly. So yeah, once I got past Heinz Braun, I was trying to catch Castro, but then you push a little too much and the tires overheat, and then he just takes 1/10 every lap, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was a slow sort of, generally slow-ish moving out of the gap, but still to secure second place, you must be pleased. I mean, taking the others out, taking Castro out of the equation, the next closest car to you is 5.5 seconds away. So it must feel weird to be in second place, having driven so well. Does it feel like you drove well tonight to distance those guys by so much and come second by such a margin?
Yes, of course, I'm happy with my own race, but the guys behind, they had to fight and race each other, and you lose time on that, so it's just natural that the gap will be a bit bigger behind me. So yeah, but I'm happy with my own race.
Congrats on that race indeed. Second place tonight, Havard, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Havard Gullikson, the second place driver tonight from Motorsport. And in third was Heinz Braun, who was involved in a bit more battling than the other two on the podium with him. Heinz, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congrats again on third place tonight. As I just said, you were involved in a lot more racing than perhaps those other two on the podium. Tell us about those fights with Friedrich and Caruso, and what the key was to holding them off for third there.
Yeah, hello. First of all, and congrats to Andre and Hava for first and second place. My plan was really to stick with Andre as far as possible, but I had my problems with this two corners. It's really difficult to get consistent lines through there. I was really struggling with the brake bias there, and yeah, I think due to the mistakes, I always put myself in danger for. They got my draft, and of course it's really difficult also to when you go up the hill and try to find a line where you really can defend without risking anything. So it was very intense. I'm sweating a lot, but it was as always much fun, and I hope the others also see that this was a fair fighting, fair racing in this race.
And how important, by the way, was that hairpin to that run onto the straight, and indeed by the end of it, because we saw that was where you had a little bit of trouble tonight. I saw you off the rope, I think once, through the hairpin. But how important was it to this race, both for just staying on the circuit and also for defending?
Yeah, everything to get there clean through this corner and take off the best speed out of the corner. Without then, I was just telling before you came to the interview with Havard, it's really difficult there. He was also sweating when he wanted to pass me, because you can really easily lose it when you accelerate on the curb. So yeah, it's really defining, let's say, the race when you get this corner right. I think you can really hold your position. In case you have minimum 4 or 5 tenths in front of them, and of course, I think you have seen me then when I had this gap, and I started waving, of course, because they will otherwise come on both sides of me by the end of the straight.
Well, absolutely. It's a great drive from you to get into third place, and so congratulations on that, and thanks for coming to chat to us after the race.
Yeah, thank you as well. Have a nice evening. Bye bye.
Thanks very much, Heinz Brunn, the third place driver tonight from Motorsport. Well, we started a new season, Ron, and we've started as we left off in the previous season. We'll head to Nürburgring next week and see if we can get a different outcome as Andre Castro seems to dominate.
Yeah, and that Nürburgring race, I feel like, is going to be another one that may potentially fall in his wheelhouse. Looking at the action that we saw last season here in the Radical Esports Cup, he was able to have a pretty good race there. Ended up P2 at the end of it, behind your eventual winner of Christoph Lipp, who wasn't here today. But the Nürburgring put on a pretty good race last season, put on a darn good race the season prior. It's been a track that we haven't seen a whole lot of here in the Radical Esports Cup, as they usually favor the Nordschleife. That Grand Prix lad has put on some brilliant racing, and I have a feeling that broadcasted race in just 1 week's time is going to be no different.
Yeah, that's his Nürburgring there, but a sheet I looked at earlier said Nordschleife only, so I don't know. Come back next week to find out what the track's going to be, because we're not really sure. But it's going to be fun anyway, whether it's on the Grand Prix layout or indeed the whole Nordschleife. As I mentioned, we actually had a Grand Prix layout earlier on in 2025, and it was pretty good. So either way, we'll be pleased, whichever one it is. Coming next week. So make sure you join us again, 2100 GMT, as we're here every Friday between now and early December. I've been Yun Lilly alongside Ron Bounds with Ramiro Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras. It's great to be back in the Radical Esports Cup for the final time in 2025. Hopefully you'll join us again next week at the Nürburgring. But from all of us, for now, from Motorsport, it's goodbye.